Okay, I just made a very long post. I'm going to do this one really short to say mum's cousin. So Sharon and her husband Chick. I don't know what Chick's real name is. I grew up calling Chica Chica. And this is what it's funny. This is what we do in our family. Great example is Sharon's mother's Auntie Mari, but it's actually really Julia Mari. And Uncle Fred, his real name's Leo Patrick Sayer, and Uncle Jack, his real name's Matthew John. So this bullshit of, people calling other people by other names, it's like, don't start with me. Like, if I want to be called Sosheim, my entire family's been doing this for over 100 years. Mari's not Mari, Mari's Julia. Jack's not Jack, his name's Matthew. Uncle Fred's not Uncle Fred, his name's Leo. So don't start with me. And Mary, Big Nan, her name's not Maisie, it's Mary. So don't start with me. This has been going on for my family for years, and one family member's born from one family member but raised by a different family member. So don't start your bullshit with me and start attacking me in the last 9 years because of government departments. Start thinking about how our family on my mother's side are. Because this person, for an example, Uncle Fred was Frederick Goff first. I think it was Goff. Ask Sharon Newcomb, Mum's cousin, she would know. Frederick Goff, because May Goff, which was Nan's grandmother's sister, had him first. So Mad Auntie May, which is who we called Mad Auntie May, was one of the rich ones that lived in Bellevue Hill. Here's the thing. What I said was, I grew up with Uncle Fred. That side of the family, like my grandmother Lola's side of the family, her mother's side had a lot of money. Pop Reg used to say that. That's where, the snobbiness sort of come from. Nan went to ladies' college. My great-grandmother Mary was a snob. Her brother was a snob. That's true. So, let's get back to it. Because I don't really care, except for the fact is that when I'm getting lied about, and not just lied about, twisted to be a character of a person I'm not by organisations, but what I've said is the truth. So, one person that can confirm exactly this, and I've said, and the person doesn't want to get involved, which is Mum's cousin, so Mari, which is really Julia Mari Keegan, but let's just call her Auntie Mari because I grew up calling her Auntie Mari. It's her daughter, which is Sharon. And Sharon was raised by her grandmother, my great-grandmother. This is what happens in my family. So Sharon was raised in 43 Piper Street, Leichhardt, by her grandmother at the same time that my grandmother was growing up as well, or lived there. Anyway, so my grandmother's Lola May, and her middle name's actually May after Mad Auntie May. And Nan used to say Lola because she's French. But Bridget Dufresne, Nan's great-grandmother, was apparently French. Like, this is all facts. Now, I know certain facts because of being around Big Nan and Uncle Fred, which is Leo, and Little Nan, which is Lola. Other people know other facts, which is like Sharon, and I know facts that Sharon can back up. And a great example of this is, I said to Sharon, can you confirm Gary Williams, Nan's cousin's house in Bellevue Hill? Because that side of Nan's family grew up in Bellevue Hill. Now, when they've turned around, they don't want to get involved with the family fights. I'm like, this has got nothing to do with the family fights. I grew up with Lola and Reg, Mum's parents. My great-grandmother I grew up with as well, so Mary, Big Nan. Her brother, Uncle Fred, so Leo Patrick Sayer. Leo Patrick Sayer lived in Bellevue Hill. I know that, I knew that since a kid. Christ, Uncle Fred always brought up when he lived in Bellevue Hill, including when he took photos of seaplanes down here and got in trouble for it during the military time when it was a military base. But he lived in Edgecliff Road. So this is that side of the family. And Nan used to say she used to travel from the tram from Leichhardt to Bellevue Hill to see her grandmother. So her grandmother Julia, which is Julia Sayer, Julia Sayer was obviously staying at her sister, Annie Williams Shawkner, but it's Tommy Williams' mum, Gary Williams' grandmother, her house. So Nan said, I used to go to Bellevue Hill, and Nan loved the house in Bellevue Hill. Nan didn't like the house. I loved Nan's house where she grew up, which is 43 Piper Street, Leichhardt. Big terraced house, 3 bedrooms. I loved it. Nan's like, oh no, my grandmother's house was so much nicer. But it's not her grandmother's house. It's her grandmother's sister's house that Nan was talking about, which is where she used to go and see her cousin Gary. And that was in Bellevue Hill. Gary sold it. Gary got it left to him. He sold it and stayed living his life out in Bondi. Now, I've said this. Now, this is a fact. It's a fact that mum's cousin, Sharon, Sharon Newcomb, but her husband Chick Newcomb can confirm their children. So Sean and Cherie Newcomb. Sean's still on the Central Coast. He used to live down the road from Gads at Empire Bay. He could ask his mum, can you just confirm it? Doesn't want to get you involved in the family arguments with his mother. He's telling the truth. That's all he's asking. Like, he was close to his grandparents growing up, and the statements he made was the truth. He's just had his life destroyed in the last 9 years. Can't you tell the truth? You would remember, you and his dad, Chicka, Sharon and Chick Newcomb, would remember the place in Bellevue Hill. That's all he's asking. Something very simple. He's not saying for you to get involved in the argument between his mother or his auntie or his mother's sisters. He's asking from you the address of the place. Do you speak to Gary Williams, Nan's cousin? Justin hasn't spoken to Gary Williams since Margaret Keegan's funeral in 2003, and that's the truth. Like, can't you do that? Cherie, who married a Murphy, so Cherie Newcomb, second cousin, she married a Murphy, and it's his cousin, the Murphys, who his cousin's the jeweler, which is Denny Murphy, Denny Designer Jeweler in the Tamworth Arcade in Tamworth. That's my mum's cousin's daughter's husband's cousin. There you go. So yeah, that's how my family all spread out everywhere. They all from the inner city, and they've all moved. So my mother's, and I say he's my cousin, but he's only my cousin through marriage. So I've had my jewelry made through Denny Designer Jewelers, and now I'm like, can I speak to my cousin Denny Murphy? It's like, well, technically, his cousin's wife is my cousin. So my mum's cousin, Sharon Newcomb, her daughter Cherie, it's Cherie's husband, and it's his cousin. So it's how we're all connected. So, and he's a jewelry designer. And that's it. It's like, what? Just ask. Like, for fuck's sakes. I don't ask people to get involved in family arguments. I don't want them getting involved in family arguments. That's between me and my mum and her sisters. But what I'm saying, can you just confirm this? Because I'm saying the truth about what Uncle Fred told me, and I'm saying the truth about what I used to do growing up with Nan and Big Nan. That's nothing to do with my mum and her sisters. And they shouldn't be having a say in this, because I was closer to my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my great-uncle. They're the influence I had growing up. My great-uncle's from Bellevue Hill. Now, I know his address because Uncle Fred used to tell me, especially he was still living there. And even that conversation started when I was a little kid, because I always thought Uncle Fred lived where Nan grew up in Piper Street. And then it's like, no, Uncle Fred wasn't living here then, and he was still living in London. And I said, well, where did Uncle Fred grow up? And he's go, Bellevue Hill. Yeah, Uncle Fred's from Bellevue Hill. I was like, oh. She goes, she just brought, so how that happened was, Big Nan lived in Leichhardt, and Uncle Fred brought the house that his sister lived in. So that's how that happened. So Nan's like, no, we were living here and Uncle Fred bought the house. And my mum had whatever deal she had with her brother and lived in the house that was owned by her brother. So Mary, my great-grandmother, who raised her family in 43 Piper Street, Leichhardt, and I've always called 43 Piper Street, Leichhardt, my Nan's house. That house was actually owned by my Nan's uncle, Leo Patrick Sayer. So when he was an old man, he moved into it. But he's from Bellevue Hill, he's lived in Bellevue Hill in London. That's where he's lived. He was a snob. He was an absolute snob. He had the most poshest accent and would always say, cheerio. He was very posh. He was a snob. And so was his sister. But Uncle Fred was a snob and lived in really rich areas. And that rubbed off on me. So when people say, where you get the snobbers from? Big Nan, Uncle Fred. But I am not from those areas that they're from, but I still spent time in those areas growing up, so I do have that bit as well. Big Nan and Uncle Fred. They are snobs. So yeah. And so that's the truth. So all I wanted was the facts. It's like, but I can tell you the facts. I mean, I can show you the documents. The same when I've turned around and I was like, hang on, what? No one listened to Nan back even in the 90s? Because I was remembering back when, and I'll tell you how this happened. When it all happened, back when in the 90s, France was doing nuclear testing, and I was over in Kerry Road in Blacktown at Nan and Pop's, and it was on the news, and Pop goes to Nan, well, you want to stop telling people you're French now, Lola? And I'm like, are you French, Nan? She goes like this, my great-grandmother was French, Justin, like that. And I was like, so it's always been said. So that's how long ago I knew Nan's great-grandmother, Bridget, was French. but her great-grandfather was Irish. So great-grandmother, Bridget Dufresne, was French, and great-grandfather, Matthew Joseph Ryan, was Irish. And Nan's grandmother, Julia Ryan, who her husband's George Sayer, or George Gurley Sayer. So he's English. So it's like French, Irish, their daughter. So the French and Irish daughter married in English. And then they had a daughter. So you've got French and Irish had a daughter. So the offspring for that is French and Irish. Then that French and Irish offspring married in English. So then the offspring from that is French, Irish, and English. And then she married an Irish. So you've got 2 lots of Irish, 1 lot of French, 1 lot of English there. And then they had a daughter, and then that daughter married an English. Like, so, but it's, I know my family. I know that heritage on my nan's female side. I know it really well because I was really close to my great-grandmother. And I've never said anything. Like, some wanker from my high school said, about my looks once. I'm like, well, Nan's side, but my mother's side has got French in it. Nan's great-grandmother's French, and that's true, Bridget Dufresne. And Dad's side, well, this is what we've always said about Dad's side. That's where I got my looks from. And because these wankers from Tamworth knew my mum's second husband, they're making up stories about me. I'm like, yeah, my mum's second husband's not my father. Like, wankers from my high school. A deadbeat, hang on, wait, his name was Anthony Wood. I never knew him really much during high school. He's a fucking idiot. Yeah, he's like, so they like, oh, I thought your name was Rackley. I'm like, never been Rackley. That's my stepfather. Last name's Fleming. And Stanley Fleming, that's what he looks like. So I look like Stanley Fleming. I'm so over it. And there's the thing, like, I don't need people to get involved in a family argument. All I need to go is, right, here's a statement, verify it. There you go. Mum's cousin, you've got the Newcombs. So, Sharon Newcomb, mum's cousin Sharon Newcomb. Confirm what you know. What I've said the truth. Now, I know what I've said is the truth, but if I want someone to back it up, can you back it up? I know what I've said the truth. I even spoke to Gary Williams about this back in 2003. And separate to that, I actually rang the military and said, oh, here's the address of my grandmother's uncle. That's what I said, but my great uncle. Here's where he lived in Bellevue Hill. Here's his mother's death certificate. Here's Julie's death certificate when she died in 43 Private Street, Leichhardt in the 50s. His grandmother's French. His grandmother's Bridget Dufresne, and so forth. Can I have the documents to do with when he was in the military? But he was in the British military. He's in the British Navy. Have you got documents? They've got the documents. I've asked for them, and now it's gone to public records. I'm like, okay. So I've got the documents, and I looked through. I was like, there we go. There's his address. It's 33 Edgecliff Road, Bellevue Hill, or Wallara. Sometimes written down as. So, like, I grew up knowing this. It's like, how does other family members not know this? Because you weren't around. Because you weren't around, you weren't spending every single Tuesday with Uncle Fred like I was. That's why. Oh, how come Amanda doesn't know? Well, did Amanda spend every single Tuesday with Uncle Fred? Like, did Amanda sit with my nan Lola, myself, and Uncle Fred? Because, I'm sorry, no one did. Because it was only the 3 of us. It was Lola, it was myself, and it was Uncle Fred every single Tuesday. So were you there? No, you weren't there. So that's why you don't know. Because you weren't around. I was with Reg and Lola all the time. I was with Lola all the time. Amanda was with our mother all the time. My other cousins was with their mother all the time. There is a definite divide in how we've all grown up. I haven't grown up similar to Amanda. Amanda's been kept under my mother's bubble. There's no way in hell I would ever allow that. I wasn't close to my mother. I was never close to my mother, ever. I would go and socialise with my mother if she was going to see Chicken Sharon Newcomb, yeah. Because I loved Sharon Newcomb, and my nan wouldn't go there with me because my nan had her nose out of joint about something to do with one of the weddings. And so Nan's because I used to love Sharon. So the only way I could go and see Sharon Newcomb was with my mum. So we're like, all right, well, I'll go with mum to see Sharon Newcomb. Nan's not going. She goes, no, it's because of something to do with your big nan and Cherie's wedding. I'm like, oh, it doesn't concern me. So there's already family feuds back then because I'm there going, well, it doesn't concern me. Nan, you don't mind if I see Sharon? No, I don't mind if you see Sharon. I just won't see her. That's what Lola used to do. She goes, I'm not going to speak to her. I'm like, all right, Nan. And then Reg used to get the shits and goes, and go off at Nan for not seeing her cousin. Oh, hang on, sorry, her niece. But that's the way it was. There's all these family feuds for years, and so my mum's going to see Sharon on, down the road from where your dad lives at Empire Bay. I loved Auntie Sharon, Newcomb, mum's cousin. Nan was close to apparently into Cherie's wedding, and barely. I don't think there was no kids at Cherie's wedding, I remember, but apparently that had to do with something about Big Nan not going to the wedding, and there was a fight caused, and I don't know what happened, but Lola, my nan, said no. I'm not talking to her. What went on, and we're talking about something that happened like 30 years before. I'm not talking to her because of what went on at Cherie's wedding. So that's how long they hold a grudge for. And I'm like, all right, well, Nan, you don't mind if I see her? No, I don't mind if you see her, Justin. That's the way it is in the family. Like, this is ridiculous. And this trouble always starts with people who don't know families and don't have a right to get involved with families because you're not related to the family. I say this. This starts with people that have no right to get involved in other people's family. Because if you go back, it's the same with Dad's side. Dad's whole side, like, I'm going to quickly touch on this really quickly because I don't want to put too much information into it, but I only started keeping in touch with cousins after my nan died. So Ruby, Dad's mother, passed away in October 2007 on the Central Coast, and I started keeping in touch with those cousins then. I knew who they were. I knew them because we were like at a family function. Oh, there's, Auntie Sandra passed away in 2001. Oh, there's on Dad's side, Aunt Sharon and her son Jeffrey, and so forth. And we, know them, but we didn't socialise with them too much growing up. Like, it's a shame, but there was divides. Apparently there was a divide years ago because, and even my nan's brother, Uncle George, Hill told me, he said, had to do with your Auntie Sandra marrying Barry Johnson. Oh, and that's where the divide come from. He goes, yeah, no, your grandfather hated Barry Johnson. I'm like, oh, well, as far as I knew, even my mum's parents hated Barry Johnson. He's a hobo, is what Nan used to call him. He's a hobo. So Lola, who used to call, because Lola's husband, funny enough, the families are intertwined. Lola's husband, Reg Purdy, used to be friends with Barry Johnson, my dad's sister's husband. And my nan said, I never liked him. I thought he was a hobo. And anyway, there. And there was other issues and so forth there. And it's like, well, I don't get involved in that. But I still see. So after Nan died, I kept in touch with this auntie, kept in touch with that auntie that I may have not ever seen. So Dad's sisters, that I may have never kept in touch and had no idea where they lived before my nan died. So when people start getting involved in everything, it's like, am I related to you? No, I'm not related to you. So it's got nothing to do with you, the fact that my great uncle lived in Bellevue Hill, or that my nan grew up in Leichhardt, or that my grandfather's from Balmain, or my mother's born in Darlinghurst, or that I'm born and raised in the suburbs of Sydney but lived most of my life in the city, right? Because I don't need a support network of people, thanks very much. And I don't have any connection with you except for, you might be someone that passed through my life briefly. Are we related? No, we're not. Do you know anything about me? Oh, as far as I can see, all you can repeat back is, my mother, which that doesn't hold much grounds at all because I'm not close to my mother, I never have been. Definitely didn't really grow up with my mother. And then you talk about that my mother's half caste that she had with her second husband, and well, that holds no grounds at all because I can't stand the half caste loser that my mum had with her second husband, which is the Rackley. So what do you know about me? Oh, I know Justin's mother and I know Justin's half sister. Well then, if that's all you've got, you don't know me. I'll leave it there because I've said the truth and I've even put a very good detailed document in, and because of the bullshit that's gone on in the last 9 years, especially with organisations, I'm still putting up with the shit. But I won't. I'll keep emailing every single government department and law enforcement agency I have to until it gets resolved. And I'm cleared. My credibility is restored. Statements I've made that's the truth will be verified. I can easily verify that. And you now owe me almost 10 years of damages and you'll pay it. It's up to almost 10 years. So I deserve to have my money and assets back, that's for sure. I deserve to have my money, my savings that I worked hard for, my assets, my expensive furniture, my items, everything back. Well, you can't get it back, got rid of it. but reimbursed it. But you owe me almost 10 years now of loss of income, and you can pay me pain and suffering for your bullshit. And what do I look like, a pushover? Because that was just me acting to be, what was it, timid? Yeah, I'm not timid, mate. You can pay me exactly what I deserve for the last almost 10 years now for your bullshit.